All right. Hey, welcome again to another IEPPV program. This evening, we have my good friend, Frederick Van Johnson, an amazing wedding photographer. And oh, wait a minute. That's how you introduce me. No, sorry.
I'm like, wait a minute. No. I don't have those superpowers.
Frederick is the host and the owner of the TWIP Pro community, This Week in Photo, and he has a TWIP community, something that you guys all need to be checking out. I am not going to go deep into that because I know he's already going to talk about it. So I am going to turn this over to Frederick. Frederick, you go right ahead and you go ahead and run with that. I am going to step in the background here and let you have it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I hate looking at myself spotlit. Whenever I'm doing this, I don't have to ever see myself spotlit. And now that I'm on the other side, I have to see myself spotlit. Thank you, Troy and IEPPV, for having me for this talk. This is cool. This is very timely because I am in the middle, as Troy knows, of relaunching the TWIP Pro community, which I'll talk about a little bit at the end. But I'm also building a course inside of the TWIP Pro community that'll be released to members. And this is kind of an overview of what that is, of kind of what's in that course. It's as yet unfinished. So you guys are going to get the meat of the course, kind of the demo stuff and the direction that I'm taking it, kind of a sneak peek. So I thought this would be a good time to reveal it and kind of kill two birds with one stone, show you guys what I'm working on, and kind of give you the information about the topic as well. This is an interesting topic, motion portraiture, and I'll explain that in just a second. But before that, if you haven't heard of me, my name is Frederick Van Johnson. I am the guy behind This Week in Photo, which is a podcast that's been going for about 11-ish years now. So it's a photography podcast. You can find it at thisweekinphoto.com and subscribe to it. But on that show, I interview all kinds of photographers of all skill levels from all genres that all have a common interest, which is their love of photography and image making and, gear and lights and all that stuff. So that's basically what the show is about. My history, just the 50,000 foot view of my history is I started my career in the United States Air Force as a combat photojournalist. I did that for 8 years and then transitioned out of the military, honorable discharge, into Silicon Valley and worked at companies like the San Jose Mercury News as a web designer. Remember that career? So I was a web designer at the San Jose Mercury News. Rewinding a little bit, while I was active duty in the military, I was stationed in Vandenberg Air Force Base and was able to go to school at UCSB, University of California at Santa Barbara, and Brooks Institute of Photography. Ultimately, I'm skipping over lots of stuff, but ultimately I became the chairman of the board of Brooks Institute and, did a couple of things over there. So that was fun. So skipping forward, did stints at Apple, where I was on the marketing team for Aperture and iPhoto and image projects. And then after that, I was at Adobe on a similar competing team, the Lightroom Photoshop team. So, and then now I'm doing this. Skipping over gigantic swaths of stuff so that I can get to what I'm going to be talking about tonight. But just a little history on me, just to set the stage that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to photography or pixels or light or that kind of stuff, which segues me into the topic of tonight's conversation. So I purposely didn't want to inundate you with a bunch of slides and all that. And I did put a deck together and then scrapped it because it didn't really speak to what I wanted to convey in this talk. And that is the idea that we're all image makers and storytellers, and we have some amazing vehicles to tell those stories with these days. And a lot of us, myself included, a lot of us restrict ourselves to one dimension, the X and the Y. We take a photo, it's a two-dimensional thing, and we may be really good at post-processing it and making it look amazing and sharing it online, but it's always just those two dimensions. And I would argue that there are many more dimensions that you can explore when it comes to storytelling, and that the story should inform the art versus the technique informing what you do or the story. And what I mean by that is we have computers. I'm sitting in front of a Mac Mini right now. I have a MacBook Pro. I have a tablet. I have a phone. I have all these different ways that I can consume content and enjoy it. And those devices are exceedingly good at displaying video, at showing audio, at storytelling. Any way that the producer of that content wants to share that content with me, they can do it. But we as photographers tend to work in two dimensions. So I'm submitting to you tonight that there is another dimension that we can play in. And I want to show you some examples of how easy it is to transition your current work into something a little bit different that plays in multiple dimensions, as it were. So what we're going to do by the end of this talk, in the next 30 minutes or so, by the end of this talk, you will understand how to leverage some of these technologies and softwares. This is what I'm going to show you is really platform and software even independent. This is just the basic idea is cross-platform. It works everywhere. So let's dive in. So we know about who I am. I have a little yellow sticky here of slides of what I was going to put on the slides, but instead they're on a yellow sticky. Troy knows about the yellow stickies. So the overview of the mission was really the first thing here. So the overview of the mission for this particular session or this talk is to hopefully convince you to start considering introducing motion and other forms of media into your work. And I want to show you some paths of least resistance to doing that. So I want to start with a demo. So and I'm going to conclude with a demo. This is going to be a lot of demos. So you guys are going to like this because I like demos. I hate slides. I like demos. So I'm going to share my screen first and show you the first demo.
Did I make sure? Oh, there you go.
Okay. Can you see this, Troy? This is
yep, it's working great. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a site by a site/service. I'm not sure what it is, but it is a service that my friend Troy Plota created, and he's not narcissistic at all because he named the site Plotograph Pro. So what this is a way to add motion to still photographs. So he said again, it's a way that you can add realistic motion to existing still photographs. I'm going to show you how to do that. This is one modality of thinking about motion. Harvesting your existing library or even shooting something purpose-built for adding motion to later, but adding motion after the fact is one modality of this stuff. The previous iteration of this was the Cinemagraph, which I'm going to show you as well. So Cinemagraphs are video, inherently motion, right? They're designed to be motion from the start, but we reverse it and freeze that video and release parts of the video into motion. So that's the Cinemagraph. The next step is the Plotograph, or these kinds of technologies. There's a couple of them. The next one that we'll talk about after this Plotograph is how all this manifests on mobile. So I'm going to show you a piece of software on mobile that pulls all this together and makes it insanely easy as well. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do here. So we're going to talk about that. And then we'll bring it all together at the end with, you may be thinking, yeah, this is great, but I like to print. I like to put my stuff on the wall, or I like to make wedding albums or portfolios or whatever. I want to show you how you can take this and bring it Harry Potter style into the real world and what the tools are to enable that. So we're going to go from stills and videos all the way through to hanging a picture on the wall and seeing it animate on the wall. If you think that is interesting, please put the corresponding emoji for your interest in the chat so I can know if I'm talking about the right stuff. So in the chat, throw an emoji or a word or something in there if you're interested in what this topic's about. So It should be interesting. And then at the very, very end, I want to share with you what I've been working on for the last couple of years. Actually, myself and Troy have been working on this for the last couple of years, and it's the TWIP Pro community. Some of the members are here tonight. Hey, everybody. I want to talk about that a little bit and share a coupon for you guys to join if you want to. So that's the stage. Let's dive in. So yeah, Carl says go. Richard says yeah. Joan says sounds interesting. Troy Miller, the plant, says yes. Rebecca has some sort of text-based emoji. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to assume it's positive. So okay, let's dive in. So what you see here is Photograph. So you can go to this site. You can sign up for a free account, or whatever. I'm not sure how their pricing structure works in terms of what you have to pay for and what you don't, because he changes it literally every couple of months or so. But you go to the site, and at first glance, I would encourage you not to run away screaming, because what you'll see on this site, and let me see if I can go back to the top here into Plotiverse. So Plotiverse is kind of their activity feed or their stream of posts, and you can scroll through these and look at them and hover your cursor over them and they will animate. So, and at first glance, I say don't run away screaming, because at first glance this kind of has the feel, a lot of these shots have the feel of dogs playing poker on velvet, you know, that kind of look. But what I mean by don't run away screaming is the technology behind what makes this possible is fantastic. It's really killer. I mean, you can go through this page on your own, go to this URL, plotiverse.com, and play around on your own and see what they've done here. But it's really interesting, and I want to show you how to create these. All of these photos that you're looking at started, most of them started as still photographs. And I want to take you through what that looks like. So I'm going to go into Photograph here, which is my account. Let's do it in the browser. They have a standalone app that you can use, but it's essentially identical to what's in the browser. So we're going to use the browser for this because I have it in a tab. So let's animate some stuff and just see how it works. So I'm going to go into this photo here. So you have a photo of a wave. Big deal. So how do you animate this? You would assume, and this was not a video, this is just a still photograph. This is a stock still photograph at that. So how would you animate this? This is how easy it is. So there's a number of controls down here on the side. Obviously, we have our selection tool. Over on the left here, we have brush tools for making masks. That's going to come into play in a second here. We also have our feather tool so that we can control how much of the foreground and background appear. But the most important thing here is our animation point tool. And a little hidden Easter egg here, this icon at the left here of the dancer, that is Troy's significant other. That's a silhouette of her that he had to put in the app. So, but no narcissism here at all. Okay, so let's animate this. So if you look at this shot, you would think that the wave is kind of moving around in a kind of a curl. It's a curl wave, right? So it's moving in a curl kind of up and over from the bottom right around and then curling and ending up kind of at this spot. So I'm going to add some animation points. And you notice I haven't done anything. All I did was click on this little icon here. It defaulted to animation points. So I'm going to click and drag it in the direction and the area that I want my motion to take place in. So let's click and drag here. I kind of want these waves moving kind of up like that, right? That's kind of how a wave would move, I guess. Never been on a wave like this, and I doubt if I ever will, but this is kind of how I'd imagine that they work, right? It's going to kind of come around menacingly like that. Maybe these waves come up like this in there. Okay, so I added, I don't know, 10, 15, whatever points. And I was basically clicking and dragging. Wouldn't it be interesting if that was it? If you could just take a photo and click and drag and say, make this move I'm going to click the play button and see what it's done. I haven't done this on this image before, so I loaded these images in to demonstrate live with you. So we're going to see together how good my animation skills are. So I'm going to click preview. All right. So we have motion and we have some problems. So how do we fix those problems? So we got some tearing here at the edge. This doesn't look really realistic over here. It's kind of doing some funky stuff here. So what we can do is, I'll pause it. What we can do is, now that we see, because the app is really, I mean, it's doing some sophisticated math underneath, but it doesn't really know what this image looks like. It's just moving pixels based on what you said and how to move the pixels. So it's moving them. If you look at these control points, it's moving them as fast. The longer the line, the faster, I hope I'm not transposing this, but the longer the line, the faster the animation, the shorter line, the shorter the animation. Or the longer the line, the slower, the shorter, the faster. I believe that's how it works. So let's shorten some of these to make them a little bit more detailed. And maybe we'll delete a couple along the way. So we'll shorten these up just a little bit. Like that, redraw those. And then along the edge here, I was getting some tearing. That's an artifact of the computer doesn't know what it should be animating and what it shouldn't be animating. So what we'll want to do is, in this case, freeze these pixels around the edge for the most part so that they don't move. And how do we do that? There's a couple of ways. So if we go back to our little animation point control here, we've got stabilize and anchor points. That's going to come into play on a different image that I'm going to do. So those are basically, think of them, if this is the way that I look at this app is, this image is a bedspread, right? And if you're making up your bed and you kind of flick the bedspread, everything moves, everything's in motion till it settles down. Those are our animation points. If you wanted that bedspread to not move in certain places, what would you do? You put a weight on it. Right? So that's what these stabilizer anchor points are, essentially weights that you're putting on this fluid piece of animation. Or you can go to the mask and paint a mask in areas that you don't want to move, that you want to be relatively static. So we'll just paint down here and we'll see what we're doing. We're experimenting together here, folks. So. And of course, you probably wouldn't want the sky to move, so you could freeze the sky as well. Let's do that with a couple of animation points here. So I'm saying, you know what, leave this alone. Don't move the sky at all. Okay.
Now, Frederick,
so
is that running in a web app?
This is all in a tab in Safari right now.
So it's all in a tab. Yeah.
This is, but it's there. There is a native app if you feel like you need that, and it has identical functionality to the web app. So why wouldn't you use the web app? So we'll click play here. And now you see the hard edge that we're getting on my mask. That's where the feather comes in. So let's hit feather preview. Let's feather it out a little bit. You see that edge down there? So it's showing me where the feather is going to happen at. Let's get out of that, click play. So you can play around with that. So this isn't an ideal image to do this on, but you get the idea of how you would animate this. Let's use a more ideal image and see what an ideal image might look like. So let's go back to photograph. Let's take an image like this one. Clouds, right? Clouds are all the rage these days with cloud and sky replacement and all that. What if you could make these move? What if you could have an app put clouds in there, and then later you decide I want those clouds to move? So how would you do that? Same way. Let's go in and click our animation points. I think I kind of want these to be going away or kind of radiating out from our main character down here. So I'm going to do this. I want them moving out kind of like that, in that direction. But I know right away that it doesn't know that this is a person, that this is a rock, and all this is foreground. I want it to leave that stuff alone. So let's do two things. Let's try it with anchors. I'm going to stabilize and anchor all this stuff. This person, don't move this person at all. All this stuff should be left alone, right? So let's hit play and see what happens. right? So let's fix it. Let's get rid of some of these points in here, like this one, this one, this one. I'm going to do a mask instead because it wasn't clean enough. The anchor points work great for things in scenes like, say, there's a car in there and you want the background to be moving. You can anchor the car and it won't move. These kinds of areas are a little bit difficult. So let's go ahead and paint in here, here. You don't have to be too precise because it's doing motion anyway, right? So we want all this masked. All right. All right. Here we go. And see where I didn't mask it, it's moving that, but see how clean it is up here, right? So let's mask this a little bit further. Let's get that. And then all this down here. But what I can do instead of meticulously painting all there, I can start mixing these animation tools. So instead of painting all this, I'm just going to stabilize it with a couple of anchors. So leave this area alone, photograph. Here we go. Still got a little bit of motion in there. Let's freeze that. So you get the idea. You could be really meticulous with this and really get detailed. I put these long control points in here. Let's see what happens if we go short. So we want short, kind of more elegant motion and less in your face motion. Okay, let's see. See that? So, and that took like, what, 5 minutes in front of a crowd? So these kinds of things are what I'm talking about. And think about these from the perspective of, you can do this from existing images in your library. You do this where it makes sense, in service of the story, not in service of getting wows and, oh my God, how'd you do that on Instagram? Although that is an artifact of this. But you can use this to tell interesting stories. And that's what I would encourage. This is the other element to this is, so we took a still photograph and we added motion to it in 5 minutes. Big deal, right? If there's a story behind this and it makes sense that those clouds are moving and you've added some text or some voiceover to this image to say what's going on, it adds another dimension to it because humans tend to like stories. Well, look, this is why we wouldn't use use photograph in the browser. It says this web page is using significant energy. So that's probably why you would want to use this in the app. But we'll continue. But so adding different dimensions to this, just to close up on photograph a little bit, on the right here, they've added a bunch of features that I think are kind of gnarly, right? So if you go in and I just click the FX button over here, there's some ridiculous stuff down here that you probably wouldn't want to add to any image, right? And I think that in a lot of ways takes away from the seriousness and the power of this app, because people see that weird clip art stuff going on at the bottom down here, and instantly you think that this is not a serious application. So play around with that. Let's do another one real quick before we move on to the next thing.
Hey, Frederick, Carl asked if it's JPEG or RAW, or I'm going to add maybe both.
It is no. These are taking, well, raws need to be decoded before they can be displayed, and this app needs a decoded image. So you can upload a PNG file, a JPEG file, or a TIFF file. But you would start your post processing in Lightroom or Capture One or something, or Photoshop, and then get it clean, get it going, get it edited however you want it to be edited, and then bring it in and do your final animation at this point. So that's how that would work. So here's one. I haven't tried this image yet, and I thought I would try it tonight because I want to see if I can. And I know, Troy, you're a big astrophotographer, right? So I want to see if I can.
Yeah. Nothing like a demo in front of a live audience, right?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I literally just pulled this image down. So let's see if we can make it happen. So you guys know the deal, right? So I'm going to, on this one, actually, I'm going to go rogue here. I'm just going to use anchor points, because there's a lot of contrast between the foreground and background here. So let's anchor around the edge of this guy.
Yeah, I know I spent a lot of time playing with time lapse when I learned how to do time lapse, but I never got into doing anything, you know, from stills, you know, and you have to shoot specifically for time lapse.
Right.
Dwayne is asking, what is it outputting in the end after animation?
Good question. I will show you in just a moment, Dwayne. Okay, so we've got anchor points. Let's put some on our guy just so he doesn't move. And we don't want any of this moving. This is going to be exciting. So let's see if it works.
Or is it?
Or is it? So let's add some animation control points in here. Let's just realistic. This would just be flying across the sky, right? Or with the slowly moving Milky Way, would it be moving left to right or top to bottom or bottom to top, Troy?
It's left to right.
So it would be moving from this side to this side, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
unless you're Craig Stampley, and then it moves the other way.
Right. Well, we won't count those people. So we'll just make some short control points in here because I want this moving relatively slowly, just like that. Let's put one in here. Anchors away, and let's hit play. Ew, I don't like it. That didn't work at all. I wonder how you would do that. So let's see. It's
been a lot of time masking.
That's a lot of masking. Yeah. Well, here's an example of something that wouldn't work. Right. That's something I wouldn't want to do that. So you can undo all that and redo the whole thing. Let's do one more before we leave. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
That's great.
Yeah, this one. I think I've done this one already. So here's a pre-cooked
I can't wait to
example.
see what Peter Levshin does with this.
Oh God. Yeah, this should be interesting. It's fun. But this one you guys can see what I did here, right? So it's got a bunch of control points around the dress. I only want the dress animated and nothing else. And I want the dress flowing down into water. So you can see using a tool like this combined with compositing should be really interesting, right? Because now it kind of adds literally another layer, another dimension to your compositing work. So if you play that one, that's what that looks like. So fun stuff. So lots of stuff that you can do. And now imagine if you took a shot like this and added in some ambient sound of just sort of running water and then birds chirping in in a cave or something like that. So you can have a lot of fun with these things and tell some interesting stories with visuals and motion, and these things can play anywhere. So to answer the question about getting these out, so you hit this little export button at the bottom right. You can share them to Plotiverse, which is that kind of dogs playing poker on velvet feed that I showed you. So we go there, or you can go custom export. If you click custom export, you can control what it's going to go out as. So obviously these need to be motion, right? So MP4 is what it's going to default to. You can do a move, a QuickTime, or a JPEG sequence or ping sequence. And what those are in a folder of individual files representing each frame in the animation. So then you can bring those into apps like Premiere or Final Cut and do additional things to them. Or you can do something short like an animated PNG file or an animated GIF out of this and control the looping on it and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's pretty robust in terms of what you can do with it and what its output is. In contrast to the app I'm going to show you next, it doesn't have the polish of what you would consider a pro app. Like I couldn't see someone like Troy creating imagery in here to share with a professional client, but maybe at the end I'm going to show you maybe why someone like Troy might use this to share with a client.
You know, having played with Plotograph, I mean, you having played with it, I'm wondering, can I create content and make it private to my brides? Like, can I make content for them and make it basically create content for them? How would I make it private?
I wouldn't use photograph for that. I wouldn't send brides here. I would export the file and share that wherever you share your files with brides at. So if you have a service, say for example, SmugMug, if you're using SmugMug, you can upload videos to SmugMug. SmugMug automatically supports looping MP4s. So if you've created a seamless loop in Photograph and throw it in there, they're going to see it along with the rest of their images in there. So,
yeah, like, or an animated GIF they could put in probably in their photo app, right? Probably on the Google phones or the Apple phones for sure. Very cool.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So that's that. If there are any questions, guys, throw them in there and I will. Yeah, Crick Sanfley says Enya music. Yeah, don't do that. So, although it's just not bad.
Or Metallica Fade to Black would be great. But yeah.
There you go. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is, how are we on time? Jeez.
Oh, you're good.
Good grief. The next thing I want to talk about is the opposite of photograph. So taking a still photograph and moving that photograph into video or adding video elements to it, that's one thing. But taking video and freezing it and essentially making it a still photograph that has video elements in it requires another technique. So there's a couple pieces of software that you could do that with. One of them is called flixl, or from a company called flixl, and the software is called Cinemagraph Pro. And allow me to demonstrate what it can do. So I'm going to share again real quick. So we're now in Cinemagraph Pro. Again, working without a net. So here we go. I'm not really, because I've already gotten these ready. So if my computer didn't put them in the cloud to screw up my presentation. So let's take this first image here. I'm going to load it in. Yes. So it's going to import this MP4, and we're going to have some fun with it. So the thing about these images or creating cinemagraphs is they, in order for it to make things easy on yourself, you need to start with a stabilized image. So the image needs to be shot on a tripod without and only the thing that you plan on animating later should be moving. For example, it says sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. Can you see my screen, Troy?
Yeah, it says Cinemagraph. It just says Cinemagraph Pro.
You don't see a wine glass?
No.
Okay.
I just see the Cinemagraph, and there's a close in the top left corner.
Oh, interesting. Okay, let's see. What about now? Still the same, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna have to share my whole screen.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to share my whole screen. So stand by. Here we go. I hate sharing my whole screen because my computer goes to a crawl.
Dwayne
Okay.
says the glass is apparently empty. If no wine glass.
Yeah. Here, can you see it now? Can you see the glass now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here we are. So the thing, like, as I was saying, the thing about cinemagraphs or creating these from video is that the video needs to be locked down. So you need to have shot the original footage on a tripod. If you shoot in 4K or 8K, depending on what your camera gear allows, then the resultant file will lend itself to printing, which I'm going to show you as the last step in this process. So how do you do this? So within flixl, if I can get zoom out of the way, I know you guys can't see that. Okay, so you see at the bottom here, it's basically previewing. What it's showing me is this is the still frame here that it's going to use as the still for our cinemagraph. That's where this little purple bar is. So that's our still. And then around it is the range of video that it's going to play. So I can move this in and out to get the right spot. And then my computer is freezing a little bit.
Yeah, running Zoom and screen shares and all of it at the same time.
It's challenging. It's challenging. So I'm not going to touch much. I'm just going to talk to you about it. Yeah. So This is the app is really, really simple, right? So I just loaded in this clip. It's telling me the ins and the outs. This is the range. This little bar here is showing you the range of where I want my cinemagraph to end up. There's a still photograph that is going to be the underlying shot in this. So what do I want to be the still? So let's say I want this right here to be the still. And then from this point forward, it's simply painting in and releasing the motion. So I'm going to paint in here because this is the only thing that I want to be moving in the shot. So now only that's moving. Only that's moving. You can bring it down a little bit. Just like that. And then from here, it's just like Photograph Pro. You can export an MP4 file, share it with clients, whatever you want. Let's do a shot of a person. Let's open another shot. So
Mark makes a comment. So the question will be when to use which one between Plotograph versus Cinemagraph.
That depends on what your final result is, or what the final story that you're trying to tell is. So yeah, see, here we go with our watermarks. Thank you, Flixl. So if you're trying to tell a story that is visual, right? It's video related, or you're starting with video, that tells you that obviously you have to use Cinemagraph to create the project. What I found is the most successful cinemagraphs or motion photos are the ones that, or let's rephrase that. The most successful photographs are the ones with big areas of high frequency information, like clouds or waves or trees or things like that, because then the fact that it's synthetic animation is masked by the frequency of the content. For things like that are realistic, like a woman in a red dress drinking wine on a deck somewhere, and you want to just release her dress and show the dress blowing in the wind, you would use a cinemagraph or original video for that. But depending on what you wanted, ideally you would conceptualize what the final result is going to be, and then go capture the content or the elements and then put them together in software. Not let's, give me some raw materials and I'll synthesize something amazing from it. Right. Okay, so same deal here. So we're going to show this liquid flowing, right? And the ins and outs don't matter in this shot really that much. So, and all I'm going to do, this one is shot really well. So they held this glass well. I think it was on something, and this whole thing was locked down on a tripod. So now really all the artist has to do is release the motion where there's motion, just like that. So now you can export this. And if there were people gathered in the background, this is a demo version, obviously, which is why you see that Flixl watermark all over the image. But if there were people gathered in the background, then they would be frozen. And the only thing pouring is the liquid here. To add another dimension to it, add some sound, add some ambient to the shot, and you're good to go.
Super cool. Yeah, you can do that in Photoshop, because Photoshop has the animation timeline, but not that simple.
Right. But that's a good point, because it's not that simple in Photoshop, but once you know how to do it, you know how to do it, right? It's not like it changes every day. You got to relearn it. So I would suggest using Photoshop if you already use Photoshop and you already have a license for it or Creative Cloud subscription, use Photoshop, learn how to do it in Photoshop. It won't take you that long to learn it. And you'll have much more flexibility and much more power. And you won't be paying a subscription fee to Cinemagraph or Flixl for their one-trick pony app, right? So here are some examples. I've shown these before in a presentation. Here's some examples of those kinds of works that I shot. So here's one I did in a castle a while back. If you roll over, it should animate. So this is done the exact same way. This was shot at Preston Castle in Ione, California, which is allegedly the most haunted place in California. Once a year, usually around Halloween, they let photographers come in to play around. My friend Tim Engel, a model, and myself went up there and stopped by a thrift store on the way out and bought everything you see in the shot, except for the person. We bought everything in here and set this up, set up one light. I believe this was one light and a fan. Put the camera on a tripod. This was a Lumix GH5 shooting 4K video on a tripod and rolled video. So, and what I'm doing as the photographer was directing the model. So I'm saying, okay, now stare at the camera. I just need like 20 seconds. Stare at the camera and hold that teapot as still as you can and pour the liquid. Okay, we did that about 15 times. Yeah, it was heavy, right? So, but models, that's what they do. Yeah. So she poured this like 15 times, and we did over the course of about an hour. We felt like we got the shot, and it ended up in this loop. So what you're looking at is a Cinemagraph loop of this liquid pouring out that's on repeat, and it's on bounce repeat. So it's not a loop that starts at the beginning. It's at a loop that plays to the end and then reverses itself and plays again and then reverses itself. So it's bouncing the playhead back and forth. And in the final version, which I'll put in the notes here, the final version, I did add music to this, and I did add the sound of pouring liquid, and I had a good time with it. So that's one of them. Here's another one. Same deal, same castle, different part of the castle. And if we can get her to load, yeah, there you go. So we brought out the fog machine and had her stand up there for, we were doing this for about 20 minutes or so. And this is an example to answer that question before, which do you use, cinemagraphs or photographs? This is an example where you'd obviously want to use a cinemagraph, right? Because it's real motion. The only thing we wanted moving was the yo-yo. This would be impossible any other way. So this is why we did that. And here's the last one I'll show on this one. So this is in the boys' dormitory upstairs, where apparently some tragedies happened. So we put our model. This is all, I believe this is all ambient light. There's another window to my back, kind of off to the side. Actually, no, this was not, there was no light off to the back. She is lit with a flashlight. So we had a high-powered flashlight. I believe Tim Engel was holding it above his head, aiming it at her. Camera again on a tripod, locked down, shutter release, hit the button, roll 4K video. I had another assistant run up and rock the rocking chair to give it some motion and then run out of frame. And yet another assistant was running behind with a smoke machine, adding the smoke layer back there. So, and all the while I'm sitting there with my arms crossed, barking orders. And that's how the shot comes together. Then you bring it all together in software and animate it. And that's basically it. That's basically how this works. So these are fun. So the whole point of all these is that, doing images for the sake of doing images is great, but doing images and using the medium of or the display of tablets or your computer or your phone or whatever to add another dimension to the stories is not that hard. It's really easy to do that. And the assets to do that, whether it be stock music or, whatever you want to add into the scene, you can complete the story that you were trying to tell with your photograph with a little extra effort after the fact. So that's that.
Yeah, it definitely requires some forethought to prepare some of those. Yeah. You got to think that stuff through. Yeah. Very cool.
A little bit. Yeah. So the last thing I want to show here is mobile and how you would do this on mobile. And arguably this is the best way to do it, especially considering some of the recent announcements from Apple on M1 tablets and all this magic stuff that they're putting out in a couple of weeks. I want to show you, I'm going to spotlight myself, or I am spotlit. How do I get rid of you, Troy?
Ask me to remove my spotlight. Okay.
I was going to do it myself. So I'm going to show you my iPad here. This is my iPad. And I'm running a piece of software on the iPad called Motion Leap. I believe it's a freemium app, meaning you can play with it for free and they lock down some features and then you pay a fee and they unlock them. This is really, really interesting software. So it runs on iOS. I don't know if it's on Android or not. I don't have an Android device, but it runs on iOS, which means the phone and the tablet. And essentially, this does what Photograph does, right? So here I am. I just loaded this image up. I'm going to click the animate button at the bottom here. It gives me two simple options. I can select and I can choose a direction. So basically it's saying, what do you want to animate and which way do you want it to go? Okay, so let's animate the sky. So I'm going to click select and I'm going to paint on the sky. So I haven't yet figured out how to change the size of my brush. So you guys have to bear with me as I paint through this entire sky. But it's this, I've used this app extensively. The time that I used it a huge amount was at Disneyland. It was a ton of fun just on the phone, just animating strange things around Disneyland.
What was the app that you used to put fire in my hand one time? You told me to send you a photo and then you put fire in my hand that was animating. Was it this app?
That was this app.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that was this app. I'm going to show that in a second too. Okay, so there you go. So I want all this to animate. I'm being obviously very unprofessional here.
And this is on your iPad, correct?
This is on the iPad. Yep, this is on the iPad. iPad Pro, 12-inch, 12.9. All right, so there we go. So now I say direction. Let's say direction. And I think I want it to go that way, like that. So let's see if that does it. I'm going to hit play. Drum roll, please. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
So much better than the other one. This is a sloppy selection, right? What happens if I add more? Does it get smarter? Let's see. So that's pretty interesting, right? That is really interesting to me. So if I get rid of some of those, I'm just hitting the undo button in the bottom left here. So let's make short, kind of random nature kind of direction. Okay, let's see. Isn't that fun? That's so freaking fun to me that you can do that. You can do that from any image that you have. I could have just as easily animated the tree. I wonder what that would have looked like. Let's do that real quick. So let's get rid of all this stuff. Okay, so now let's go back to select. This time I'm just going to do the tree.
I see a challenge coming up, Frederick. I see this should be one of our challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
For those that aren't part of the TWIP community, what Frederick does and what Frederick and I do is we have these challenges. We've been doing critiques, but we're going to be doing challenges coming up, and they'll be month long, and so that's pretty fun. So this could be one of those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you see how easy that is? And so then at the end, when you're done, you export it to whatever file you want. But this app, Troy, this is what you were talking about before. You see all these little things at the bottom? These are all the controls and features that those other apps don't have for some reason. So elements, for example. What if I said, you know what, I want the sky to animate, or I want that tree animating, but you know, wouldn't it be cool if there was a flock of birds back there? So I can click this guy, put a flock of birds in my scene over here and animate. And now there are birds animating in my scene. Obviously I'm not being professional with this, but for demonstration purposes, but look at this. So there's a ton of different things that you could throw in here to make this interesting. I don't know what this is. So we could put that in there. Let's add another one. Let's add the fire. This is the fire I put in your hand that time, Troy. Like that. So, and it just animates. So you can play around with it. Obviously, you could do all kinds of things. Like in the example of that wine glass, you could do interesting things like have the wine glass. You could create the wine glass animation in flixl or in Photoshop, and then bring that into this app and add more animation to it, or vice versa. Take this one into the other app and do changes. So you can do all kinds of stuff. The sky's literally the limit with this. Speaking of skies, let's pause this. Let's go into elements. Let's delete this element, delete this element. Within the app, they've just added these two features down at the bottom here. You see sky and water. Those apparently will select sky and water, though I don't know if it will animate it. It will find it and animate it. I don't know if it's going to see the water in this image because it's purple, but we will see. Let's hit this and hit play. Look at that. We have semi-realistic looking ripples in our water. What if we use, let's see, what does that look like? It looks more like wave 2. How about that? Yeah, very subtle or heavy. So you can see, you could be sitting here with your phone. Obviously, this is an iOS app, right? So it's right on the tablet, but you could be doing all this on your phone and being really meticulous about it, then export your finished work as an MP4 file and bring it into other apps and go to town with it. So pretty interesting stuff. And then let me stop my spotlight on this and bring me back. So the last thing that I wanted to just talk about real quick in this, and so the whole purpose of this was to whet your appetite and expose you to some of these apps and these different ways of looking at your images and videos, and maybe some ideas of different directions that you could take in terms of using these tools for storytelling. But what about the real world, right? So what about prints? What about that stuff, right? So this is where this gets really interesting. So you can, and I want to show you this app, this service. Here we go. So this is called liveportrait.com. So Live Portrait was built by a couple of really smart engineers down in Southern California, and they created this initially as a way to bring yearbook photos to life. So let me explain how it works. And I can't demo this right now, but you can play with it. So what this does is, you can see on your screen there, it's very simple. Upload new interactive image, upload your image, upload your video. So you upload a still photo and you upload a video representation of that still photo. In the case of this demonstration, that could be one of those fantastical, images that we just, or cinemagraphs or photographs we just created. That could be your video. The still from that could go into the upload your image area. So what happens? What the software does is it uses artificial intelligence and augmented VR to allow that photo to be recognized by their software and replaced intelligently in 3D space with the video. So what does that look like? You have a photo in the real world. This would be, you have a photo hanging on the wall, Troy, that you created, that you sold to a client. And it's hanging, say they're coming over for their consultation. You got this big photo hanging on the wall of them. When you shot this photo, you were also rolling video clips of them talking and joking and being in love with each other or whatever. And the scene was amazing. So what you could do is, you have the photo now, you print it, it's framed. Now with this live portrait software, they aim it at the photo on the wall. The photo is replaced with the video inside the frame perfectly with the audio that you've created with the video. So now that video starts playing. So the way that I used this was, in my dad's house, we have a photo wall of a bunch of people, including my dad. So we started this series with my dad kind of telling some stories about when he was growing up, and there's a portrait there. So if you walk up with your phone and aim your phone at that picture, the picture comes to life and tells you stories from dad, right? So you could do the same thing with every family member. That could be any print. So the importance of this that I want to hammer home is this: being able to do or have the device that everyone has with them all the time, to be able to have that display or be able to read a two-dimensional static image and replace that with a video image is what we're talking about here. That could be a photo on the wall in your living room. That could be a photo in a magazine. That could be a photo in a wedding album that comes to life on the page and speaks. That could be a yearbook. It could also be a billboard. It could be a giant billboard in Times Square. And if people aim their phone at it, that billboard now starts moving and comes to life and speaks and does the whole 9 yards. So you can see how these stories start getting really, really interesting, especially in the world of NFTs and cryptocurrency and selling one-off things. You could sell this package of this living work of art that comes to life over time. The cool thing about the coming to life over time piece is you are in control of the image. So one day, this image, say the image of dad, one day the image of dad could say one message, and then on the back end, you can switch that out for Christmas and say, hey, dad has a holiday message. And when someone looks at that photo, it plays the most current video that's attached to that photo. So really, really interesting stuff. They've gone B2B, this company, the liveportrait.com guys. So they are now, you can get an account through them, but I think they charge something like $20 per image for you to make one of these things. So which makes sense. If you're selling it as a high ticket item, why not? Why not? You could put whatever price you want on it. So that's where they're going. But to make it really easy, they've signed deals with a number of labs right now. I forget what the list looks like. I'm not sure if Miller's is on it, Troy. I think they may be, but I know Bay Photo is on the list. So if you are a Bay Photo customer or White House, I think they're with White House as well, one of those customers, you can do this pairing within your account. It's kind of a piece of rose within your account. You can do this pairing and then the images just show up. So really, really cool stuff. So I'm going to pin you and I, Troy, because I'm wrapping up here.
I was looking that up. I don't see it on Miller's, but I'll definitely ask him now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And it works seamlessly. So you can literally have a photo on the wall and have it be replaced. But the interesting thing about it is it doesn't have to be a physical media image. So the image itself can be another digital image on the screen that you aim your phone at, and now it comes to life and animates there. So it's really interesting how they've done it. It's a really unsung and very little known technology that they put together here, and using augmented VR, which means it can replace things in the real world with artificial things on the fly and map them in 3D space so that it looks 100% realistic when you're looking in your phone, but it's moving for some reason. So that's it. So that's it for the presentation. I wanted to end with a little bit about TWIP Pro. So TWIP Pro is just to spend like 2 minutes on it. TWIP Pro is a community for photographers by photographers. So it is what I like to call it is a kind of a welcome respite or an oasis away from the nonsense that happens on other social media areas that shall go unnamed, like Facebook. So it's different from those. Here's the landing page. I'll show you guys real quick, give you a sneak peek of what the landing page looks like that is going live soon. So this is our photography community, and what it consists of is community, a bunch of courses, critiques, photo critiques, and challenges that Troy talked about earlier. So, and this is just really quick. This is I'm in here all the time. This is an area for people to discuss images, share images back and forth, get feedback, hang out with each other. We do a weekly hangout down here. So we do a weekly member mixer that we have members show up to religiously every Friday at 6 p.m. We jump into Zoom and we talk about photography. There's a library of interviews, hundreds of interviews in here that have been done that are accessible to members only. There are challenges and critiques that we are about to roll out. The first challenge will be with a photographer by the name of Don Komarechka, who is a very well-known macro photographer, very meticulous in his work. Don will be doing a challenge that will basically show people how to create and train people how to create and capture a world within a droplet of water. So the challenges consist of a discussion at the top end, one day, with training and encouragement and homework along the way, and then at the end a review of where we've come at the end of the duration for that particular challenge. So Don Komarechka is doing one. Jeff Brown, who's a friend of mine over in the UK, is doing a talk on LinkedIn and doing a full challenge on making your LinkedIn profile the best photographer LinkedIn profile possible and how to do that. So he's going to take people how to do that. And then there's a bunch more coming after that. So I just want to let you know that this will be launching soon. And these courses, among other courses, will be included in the membership for folks that are part of the TWIP Pro community. The pricing on this, it's a monthly price, an annual price, or a lifetime price. So our monthly price is $24. $240 for the year. It's basically 2 months off, or $700, and you pay for it forever. So for the IEPPV crew, I've put a coupon code in place that will basically give you the first month free. So you can try it out if you like it, and full access to everything in there for that entire time. If you don't like it, you can cancel. And that code I'll put in the chat is very hard. It's IEPPV 2021. So see if we put that in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Frederick.
There's the link, and the code is IEPPV 2021. There you go. Cool. So that's what I've been working on. So the course that I'm building is basically what we kind of went over and glossed over today. It talks in detail about portraiture and landscape and all those sorts of things, and then it gets added to the community, and members instantly get access to that course when it's in there. Alternatively, the courses that are in the community are available a la carte as well. So once we launch, if you don't want to be a member of the community, you'll be able to purchase those courses without being a member. However, I really want you to be a member. So do that. All right, that's it. That's it for my presentation, Troy. I hope that was helpful at all.
Good job. Thank you, Frederick. That was amazing. Everybody, don't forget to check out the IEPPV website for up and coming programs. Don't forget to check out Frederick at thisweekinphoto.com. And if you're watching this from a recording, I'm going to put links to all the programs and all the stuff that Frederick talked about in the description, so you can check that out. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to open up the video and the chat, and we're going to have a little hangout. So if you're watching this from the recording, sorry, you're missing all the good fun. So thanks again, Frederick, and everybody have an amazing rest of your year. All right.